don't worry. You won't remember a thing.
Come back, Carmine. Something you once knew. You don't remember.
You can't remember anything?
No.
Did you forget?
This world is not real.
We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep.
The radio have brought us closer together.
Reaching millions throughout the world. For those who can hear me, I say.
What?
Forget about it.
Don't you remember?
What is wrong with you? I can't remember this shit.
You don't remember. Why am I not surprised?
Don't take it personally. I don't remember what I had for breakfast.
Gluten-free waffles, sir.
That's right.
I don't remember a goddamn thing.
The body cannot live without it. Why do I always forget my words when I speak?
Drop down. Remember the time.
None of us can remember anything.
Remember.
Write it down.
Remember this day.
Keep it in mind. Come on, find a pen. Write this down. Write this down. Write it down. Come on, concentrate.
All right. Man, it's been a fucking hell of a... I don't know for you, Gene, but it has been a hell of a fucking week for me. I mean, you already know. We already talked about it. Everybody else at home, you're going to have to be left in the dark, unfortunately.
It was a weak week.
It was a very weak week, and I may get redemption by this upcoming Monday. You'll know by the next podcast if I got redemption, because I will scream it to the fucking heavens if I do. But welcome back to the show, guys, which is Won't Remember a Thing.
That's right, the show where we are stuck in the time capsule today, and today is October 4th, 2020.
Yes.
And he's BJ, and I'm Gene.
Yes, we are. Whew. Now, the thing that put on top of this being a bad week, mostly just for people out there at work, honestly, just bad week at work, but would also kind of put salt on the wound this week. Well, as you know, everybody knows I'm a huge baseball fan, and my St. Louis Cardinals were in the playoffs this year. You know, we're really close. They played the San Diego Padres in their season, this past division series. Now, what hurt the most was not the fact that they lost, was the fact what happened the day they lost. So it was a 3-game series. They lost the first game, won the second game in dramatic fucking fashion, but like outscored the shit out of the Padres. Like the Padres, the first game outscored the fuck out of us. And then we outscored the fuck out of them. And then fucking they just went on a goddamn tear. Like it was just stupid. Like there was no stopping these guys. Like if these guys don't win the World Series and get really damn close, I'm going to be really mad. I'm going to be pissed because like they have a really good team. But so what happened on this day was the Cardinals ace Jack Flaherty was pitching, and he had a lot of influence from a guy who just recently died, and his name's Bob Gibson. But what also sucks is Bob Gibson literally died a couple hours after that game finished.
It's fucking crazy.
Literally. Like, and mind you, the day he died is also the anniversary of... And let me give you more backstory about this guy, because I'm not sure if everybody knows who Bob Gibson is. For people here in Omaha, Nebraska, Bob Gibson is literally a legend. Bob Gibson was born in Omaha, Nebraska in 1935, December 9th. I don't know why I needed to put that in there, but 1935. So, you know, he was literally a homegrown talent here in Omaha. Like, he went and played for Creighton. Before he went and played for the Cardinals, you know what he did before that?
What?
Played for the Harlem Globetrotters for a year.
No shit.
For 1 year, he was splitting between doing baseball and doing the Harlem Globetrotters. So he was on the Harlem Globetrotters for 1 year and went around the country with them and shit. And the St. Louis president at the time, or the general manager, decided to give him, because he was getting $8,000 a year to play baseball. Now, back in that time, like in the, when was it? I'm pretty sure, yeah, it would have been 1957. So, you know, back then, that's quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
Back then.
Oh, yeah.
So he decided to give him
a millionaire.
Right, yeah. You know, back then, it's like, oh my God, you're making a fuck ton of money. So the general manager of the Cardinals decided to be like, I want you to focus on baseball. I'm going to give you another $8,000. So, like he's making a crap ton of money at the age of 21. 22 technically. And when I say that Bob Gibson is literally a legend when it comes to pitching, that's not a joke. Like, you go and watch one of his games he pitched. Let me put this into perspective. He pitched in over 528 games in his career. Now, for a pitcher, that's a lot of games to pitch in. And a crazy stat that does not happen quite that often in baseball anymore. It's quite rare because of the way they do pitching and stuff like that. Starting pitchers don't necessarily go all 9 innings. So there is a stat called a complete game. You know how many complete games he had in his career?
Is it in the hundreds?
It's past that.
Fuck.
It's past that. So let me see here. Complete games. He had 255 complete games. So he pitched all 9 innings.
255 times.
Out of 528. That does not happen.
I was going to say, like, whoever's listening, like, if you don't have any idea, like, how
stressful that is.
Like, just imagine yourself having to pitch a baseball for what would you say, like a solid 4 hours, maybe
3.5 hours.
Yeah,
easily. And mind you, it doesn't even go into account how many pitches you are going to throw in that amount of time.
How many times you're going to be throwing your arm? You're just standing in pretty much in one spot all day, and
throwing a ball
with the sun beating on you, in the same position,
same motion every time you pitch.
255
complete games. Dude, you are lucky to see a modern pitcher even get close to like 4 in a season nowadays. Let's put that in perspective.
Yeah.
One of the greatest pitchers of our time right now is Clayton Kershaw. He has nowhere close to the numbers of complete games than Bob Gibson. Now, granted, yes, different times. But, dude,
still playing the game.
Well, because back then, in the 1960s and stuff, like, this is a little history for you guys for baseball. There wasn't a thing as a relief pitcher, really. They had guys, but if you're a starting pitcher, you pretty much were just out there until you literally got the shit obliterated out of you. Like, that was the only time they pulled pitchers, really. Like, oh, you're only down 3 runs? You can stay in there. Like, back then, it was a pride thing. I mean, it's still a pride thing to this day for pitchers. Like, pitchers don't like being taken out of games. But definitely back then, it was a real, like, it was not a good thing, really. If you were taken out of games often, like, you were not a good pitcher back then. Or, like, you just weren't effective. And this man, over his 17-year career...
Needs some time to recover.
He didn't. Dude,
No, I mean like a general player.
Yeah. You would need a lot of rest time. Like, there was a story of when he was in the playoffs, he took 2 days rest. So he pitched a complete game in one series and then pitched 2 days later in another series, another complete game. In 2 days' time. A modern pitcher nowadays could not do that. Would not happen. Just wouldn't. Unless it was dire circumstances, which barely ever happens, wouldn't happen. Wouldn't. And mind you, he has a record that stands to this day. No pitcher has ever struck out more guys in a World Series than he has. He struck out 17 guys in a World Series game.
I'm saying that tells you, like, not only how talented he was, but how much he loved playing the game.
Dude, he was one of those no-nonsense
You can't
pitchers.
do something like that unless you love that shit.
The game of baseball. And he was one of the... You can go and listen to, like, old players play back in the day, like Tony Perez... who's another one? Just a lot of old players who played back in the day, like in the 80s, 70s, or even 60s. They all hated batting against Bob Gibson. Bob Gibson was the kind of guy where if a batter thought he was cool shit, he did not mind beaming the shit out of a guy with a ball. Like, and maybe not necessarily in the head, but definitely giving him a nice 96-mile-per-hour fastball right in the fucking side and be like, all right, let's get back to pitching. And, like, just wouldn't give a shit. He's like, I'm a no-nonsense pitcher. Like, I will go out there and pitch. You know, that's what I do. And he's one of the very few guys to get... This is another statistic with pitchers. So strikeouts are a very big thing when it comes to pitchers in baseball. To get to 3,000 strikeouts in your career is a milestone. Like, There's very few guys. And the most notable is Nolan Ryan. Like, if anybody knows the 3,000 strike mark, it's Nolan Ryan. He was one of the greatest starting pitchers of all time. They're just pitchers in general. Bob Gibson got that. He got 3,117 strikeouts in his career. You do not see that nowadays. Even modern pitchers nowadays, they're lucky to even get to 3,000 strikeouts in their career. You know, like, considering what this guy did, and this is another crazy stat. I'm just going to go through the list of accomplishments he had. He was an MVP, 9-time All-Star, 9-time Gold Glove, which Gold Gloves are just like you're defensive. You know, like you're really good on the defense. Okay. He won that 9 times as a pitcher.
Jesus, man.
9 times out of his 17-year career. That's insane. You do not see pitchers even nowadays get that many Gold Gloves, which is crazy.
Playing at the rate that he plays.
Yes, at the rate back then, yeah.
Just never got tired.
Nope. He was a fucking machine. Literally, he was called the Machine.
Just constantly persevered.
He won 2 Cy Young Awards. He won 2 World Series with the Cardinals and was the World Series MVP twice in those World Series. Now, this is another thing that he had. This is something called the ERA pitching champion. So every year, they do look at a pitcher's ERA. And if you don't know what an ERA is earned run average. So it's on average, how many runs does a pitcher give up while pitching? Now, granted, when a pitcher starts in a season, it's very much inflated. If, like, literally, you could pitch day one, a dude gets a home run off of you, and that's your only the only hit.
You're gone.
Well, no, your ERA is just ballooned to like 1750 because that's the only game it has to go off of.
Got you.
So that's why you wait until like at least midway through a season to see how somebody's doing, at least pitching wise, because then that gives you at least a decent idea of like, okay, they're here, can they get better, or are they doing really good? You know what I mean? Bob Gibson won an ERA title. Now, what's crazy about this number is this record still stands to this day. His ERA in 1968 was 1.12. Now, granted, you hear that number and you're not a baseball fan, you're like, oh, what's the big deal?
1.12.
A pitcher is lucky. If a pitcher nowadays is like in the 2s,
it's as low as 1.1.
Dude, he was close to having zero and then point whatever at the end of his ERA. Like again, modern pitchers nowadays are, if a modern pitcher has at least a sub 2 ERA, they're fucking fantastic. To go below that means dudes are not like. A dude's getting an earned run every maybe 11 games. Like, they're not scoring runs at all. They're scoring 1 run a game, maybe. And he may have had a game where, like, a team scored 3 runs. But it only happened, like, once or twice. It didn't happen that often. And he won 22 games and only lost 9 in that season. Just the fact that he only lost 9. Do you know how low-scoring games those had to be?
Right.
It's like 1-0 and he's still pitching in the 9th inning and he just complete game, but he still lost because they only scored 1 run.
Man,
that's insane, man. Like, and you know, like for me, I didn't know of him until I remember the specific day I was in summer school actually, because I just did not give a fuck about school. Let's just throw that out there. When it came to high school, middle school, I was cool. But high school, for whatever reason, I just gave no fucks. Like, I was smart to an extent. Like, when it came to tests and doing whatever, I was good. I would always pass. I just wouldn't do my homework. Like, fucking ever. I would never do my homework. So I had to go to summer school. And I think it was history, I'm pretty sure. And all she was like, just write 2 papers about 2 people two people that you really like. One was Albert Pujols, which we already had our thing on, and the other one was Bob Gibson. Now, I had heard of Bob Gibson because my dad being my dad's family being all Cardinal fans, I heard of the name, never really looked into who he was, where he came from, or whatever. When I looked him up and found out he was from Omaha, it really I was like, really? He's from fucking Omaha? Really? And just looking at the stats and shit, I was learning while I was, obviously, I'm learning while I'm doing a report.
Yeah.
But it was like, I'm like, dude, this guy played for the, and also being like a Cardinals fan back then, I'm like, this dude played for the Cardinals? Like, what the fuck? And the fact that he stayed with the Cardinals his whole career, like, you don't see that often, you know what I mean? Like, you do see it sometimes nowadays, but it's very rare. For a guy to stay with a team for 17 years.
Right, like, you get like an idea of the man just by everything that you've been listing off. It's just like, you could tell that he's just like pure, genuine talent.
He was, and
just a pure dude.
And the greatest thing about him was he was a really nice guy off the field. Like, even
I'm sure
when he
very
retired,
humble, very gracious, very
Dude, he had influence on every single pitcher because he retired in 1975 and then he became eligible to be in the Hall of Fame, I believe, in 1991. I could be wrong about that date, but whatever time he was eligible to be in, he was a first ballot Hall of Famer's first time. Like, there was no question. When he got on the Hall of Fame ballot, everybody's like, yep, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Literally, there was no questions about it. And then, and he had influence within the Cardinals organization even after he retired. There are multiple pitchers that went through the Cardinals organization that talked to Bob Gibson, and he would talk to them and give them lessons and teach them. That's why, if you guys can look back at the history of the Cardinals, you don't have to, but if you do, the Cardinals have had a very long line.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It was 1981.
There you go, 81. Okay, there you go.
So you were just a decade off.
I was a decade off.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I'm pretty sure it's like 5 or 6 years after you retire, then you become eligible to become in the Hall of Fame.
But it makes sense given how long how far back he started.
Right.
So that's why when you said 91, I'm like, really?
Yeah, I didn't think it sounded right either. That's why I was like, don't quote me on that. That's why I don't think it was.
No,
right.
yeah, I just wanted to, just for your sake, just
right.
for you to hear.
Right. Yeah. So, but he had influence. Like, you go back and look at the Cardinals' history. Always have had a great history of pitching. And a good reason why is because of Bob Gibson. He always stayed around the organization, would always talk to players. He was always very nice and a genuine guy. Was just one of the nicest guys off the field you could ever meet. I never got to meet the man. I really wish I had. I really, really wish I could have met him before he died. It would have. Now, granted, from stories, he had a very tight-knit circle. So he was not a very personal, like, he would go and be, social out in public. But when it came to actually being personal, he had a very small group of people that he actually, was tight with, So, granted, I don't think I would have ever gotten to that level, but I would still have loved to just talk to him and just pick his brain about baseball, you know what I mean? Like, a dude with that much history and went through... granted, and so much, even back then, it was still, like, segregation time, you know what I mean? Like, It had just gotten past, like... it was still rough back then, Like, it still wasn't that great for black players even back then. Yeah. And he did so well. The city of St. Louis fucking loved him. It didn't matter if he was black. They're just like, you're a great player, and we love that about you and the way your work ethic and everything. Bob Gibson's work ethic is legendary. Like, to have a guy do what he did on a constant basis, you just will never see that again. And we, for me, really lost a really good person the other day. Now, I'm pretty sure I think he had bouts with cancer or something like that, and he was 87. So, it wasn't like he died too young, but still, in a sense, like, at least for Cardinals fans, like, we already lost Lou Brock, like, two weeks prior, which he played with Bob Gibson, was on those legendary teams.
He was 84.
84, okay. 3 years off.
I know.
I'm
saying you're paying your respects.
I am.
So.
No, I know. I can't believe I forgot that number. I literally watched something today say he died at the age of 84. So, but like, again, if you're not a sports fan, obviously you're like, oh, why, yes, pay your respects, but why are you so deep into this? It's like, because this is what one of the guys that kind of got me into the sport. Like, I was never a pitcher or anything, but this guy was fucking phenomenal. He was, like, one of the best players, and again, he came from Omaha, Nebraska. One of the most random of fucking places ever. Like, the last player that was good in this town was Alex Gordon, and he just retired, and he's not a pitcher, he was a left fielder. Like, And he wasn't even that great, to be honest. He was a good defensive guy, but offensively, he kind of sucked ass. Just being frank, but, like, he wasn't that great with the bat. He was great defensively, but anyways, like, you know, it was for me also living in Omaha and, like, this wasn't necessarily my hometown, but this is where I grew up. Because I lived, you know, I was born in Missouri. That's technically my birthplace, my birth town is Kansas City, Missouri. That's where I was born. But I don't claim Kansas City and I don't claim Missouri. Fuck that state. I'm a Nebraska fan through and through, and I love anybody who was from Nebraska and, like, did anything. Like, even, I mean, granted, Warren Buffett's a little... He's a good guy, but he's had some weird shit go on. But even then, it's like, he was a millionaire, and he came from Omaha, Nebraska, and he's a fucking millionaire. Or billionaire, even, you know what I mean? But, so, you know, that also... short and sweet, put salt on the wound of this week after they lost and then he died and then the shit that happened at work. So it was just a huge culmination of like, God, I want the weekend to get here. This whole week can go suck a fat dick. It really can. But you know what was another weird headline I saw?
What?
So you would think that somebody like taking down campaign signs and stuff wouldn't really get in trouble. Well, you'd be wrong. There's a lady in New York who, well, this is the other reason why it was bad. She was using children to take down campaign signs for Donald Trump. Was just going around New York, taking down signs, using kids and shit. When the cops pulled her over, she had, this is the charges, Dina Algarin, I'm pretty sure her name is. I could be butchering her last name. It's Algarin. So, however the fuck you say that.
Algarin,
however the fuck. Is charged with 6 counts of endangering the welfare of children, criminal possession of stolen property, which was the fucking campaign signs, petite larceny, marijuana possession, and also two citations for seatbelt violations involving children less than 15 years old. What?
Dude, she's in a mood.
She's She's pissed off and probably a little drunk too. She's like, she probably had the idea of like, yeah, I can get these rascal kids around the neighborhood and do my bidding. And she's just sitting there drinking. She's like, yeah, let's fucking do it. You know, executed it. And is that what this country's come to? Really? I mean, the same goes with Biden too. I wouldn't give a fuck. Like, people take down Biden campaign signs too. I wouldn't give a shit either.
I hate both. The people.
I love the people.
The beautiful American people.
And what they've said about my COVID-19.
From the beautiful people. The American people. They love me. The beautiful people.
Why are you saying it like in, Marilyn Manson's The Beautiful People? The beautiful people.
That's what he said in that message that we saw. He said, I just appreciate all the support from the beautiful American people.
But, you know, if he does have COVID-19, it's fucking working for him because, goddamn, he's never looked better. He is skinny as shit. You remember when he first got in? He was fat.
He on that Corona diet.
He on that.
I love that he has COVID and that he's like the ringleader of the downplay of this virus.
Right, and now him and his wife both have it.
Life is sweet.
Life just loves just giving you like, oh yeah, life's shitty. Here's a nice little golden nugget for you. But you know what was the?
I mean, shit. They were even trying to warn us back in the 1970s.
Oh right.
Did you see this public information ad from the 1970s about coronavirus?
No, I didn't even know it was a thing back then.
Oh.
Was it strictly coronavirus?
Yeah, in the 1970s. It's like shit that they would show in school in the 1970s to, you know, inform kids of coronavirus. But this reminds me, we have a show where we sometimes bring something up and it could use, you know, some visuals. So if you hear this, then that means that we've...
And we love that one. We picked that out. We sat there and brainstormed that one for a little bit. And we're like, what would fit good for this?
Yeah, we workshopped it for a bit, and then we were like,
there it is.
How could we have been so blind?
Now it was right there. Now at first the idea was like I wanted to do the you hear it in the intro, but the Joe Rogan what? That's what I wanted, but Gene's idea was much better. That the one you just heard, that was his idea, much better. I love that one.
But yeah, that's our little, you know, visual notification. You know,
look at me.
Yeah, just go ahead and
hey, look at me.
Feast your eyes, if you will,
on this abomination. No.
I promise you, 90% of the time, it's worth it.
What about the other 10%?
Oh, the other 10%, we get our video removed from YouTube.
Oh, yeah. We'll explain that here in a second, but play this.
Yeah, here we go.
This is weird. I can't believe you actually found this. You find the weirdest shit, dude. You know that?
I do.
You find the weirdest shit.
I really fucking do.
But you know
and
what?
it's like it's not like I seek it out. It comes to me, man. I don't know. I mean, this is like why when you were like, you want to just do a podcast, and I was like, yeah, because
let's do it.
I need to talk about some weird shit that I saw today.
But anyways, public service, 1970.
Here we go.
Wow. It actually says coronavirus.
Coronavirus is a deadly coughing disease that hangs about in the air and is passed from person to person. You must always stay alert, and if you feel like you can sense coronavirus, get indoors, fast. If you're away from home, drop face first to the ground.
What the fuck?
In this position, the only cavity exposed is the anal duct.
Surprise!
Surprise, motherfuckers, and get in your ass.
Clean
Right
your
in your
hands
asshole.
with a strong disinfectant. And stockpile as many antibacterials and toilet rolls as you can.
No, yeah, this is a
these.
joke. I was just fucking with you.
Oh, it is?
If you don't have
Yeah.
an indoor toilet,
Okay.
cut a hole in your
I was
favorite
gonna
chair
fucking
and
say.
stick a bucket underneath. If you don't have chairs,
But still,
dig a
I
hole
think it
for
gives good
yourself
advice.
somewhere inside the house. During a coronavirus outbreak, anyone you see
I mean,
could
this
be a
had to
carrier.
been shot a while ago, though, because this shit's
I
pretty
think
old.
it definitely used actual stock footage
From
of
70s.
yeah,
whatever.
or from actual like public information films.
You'd think
Like
Man, that
fucking,
dude was creepy as
you
fuck.
could tell some of
What
these
the
are
hell?
definitely.
Whoa. What is? What
I was
the
gonna
hell?
say you could tell some of these are definitely from the whole like Predator,
Pedophile.
yeah,
Whoa!
the Predator videos of like don't accept candy, kids.
What the fuck?
He's a carrier.
He's a carrier.
Inside a car. But even a car can be a carrier.
What the
It's a
fuck?
carrier
Cough on a car,
of
that car
children.
becomes
I love
a
how
carrier.
dramatic this
Which is
is.
why scientists now sometimes refer to the coronavirus as the car owner virus.
What?
This girl doesn't know it, but if she gets into the car, she'll become a carrier.
You got a car? Yeah, you got coronavirus.
Janet, would you like to know why you shouldn't have gotten into that car? It could have put you in great danger.
You mean sort of like when Johnny hits me and pulls me, my hair, when we have a
Why did they
row?
pick British
No, it
film?
could have given you a deadly virus.
You mean do something rude to me?
No, not like that either. But you should go home now before you
Okay,
cause any
Talking
more
about
trouble.
bullying.
Yeah,
Carriers
it's like
come
either
in
that or
all
like
shapes and
I'm just
pedophile
trying to
shit,
guess
not
what
getting
they've
into a
used
car.
now. I'm trying to guess where these are originally used for now.
I'm pretty sure a lot of this is for like pedophilia shit. Like, don't get into a dude's van. Like,
Oh yeah, that was probably like, you ever been abused? And she was like, what? You mean like when my little brother beats me up?
yeah.
He's like,
I think
no.
this is all pedophilia shit. Oh my god, this is hilarious. I love this. This dude's creative as fuck.
I brown eyes.
What sort of coat was he wearing?
It is that. I fucking knew it.
I see.
No, I mentioned that earlier, but I wasn't sure if they used nothing but that. I thought maybe there's a little bit more variety
That's
with their
hilarious.
choices, but it's still, I didn't know that they were really going to use it as
You really
the
had
narrative.
me for a second there. I thought this was an actual fucking like thing for this stuff. Like, really? COVID-19? Because at first it's just the whole cartoon shit. So it's like, okay, maybe it is.
Something like this.
But no. It's hilarious.
Yeah, because I
though.
watched the first few seconds of this and I was like, oh, that's the joke, so that's how I'll sell it too.
Oh
That's
my god, that
Pay
was
my
great.
respects to-
you got me
to
on
this.
that one, dude. Holy shit. But speaking of death, like at least for death-wise, since we're on coronavirus, you know what's the one weirdest death I saw this past, or not this past week, but it happened in the past week and a half?
What's that?
Here's the headline. Massachusetts man dies after overdosing on black licorice.
What in the fuck is that? Let's dissect that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, let's dissect this.
So, was it an allergic reaction?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Here's
because-
theory number 2. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
This is what they said. So, in the case recently detailed in the New England Journal of Medicine, doctors revealed that 54-year-old Massachusetts construction worker essentially overdosed on black licorice. The candy contains glycerin or Glycyrrhizic. I don't know how the fuck to say this. It's Glycyrrhizic acid. So whatever licorice is made with, it has this, which causes the man's potassium levels to plummet. So like whatever is in this licorice, it makes potassium levels in people plummet.
Okay.
Now normally wouldn't be such a bad thing. This dude was eating a bag of these a day for like a couple weeks because he was eating red licorice and then he moved to black licorice, and literally within 3 weeks of him eating this shit, he didn't die right away. He actually, he went to the hospital. They were able to revive him, but he only survived for like another 24 hours so his family could see him, and then he died after that. So the whole thing of like, oh, black licorice is gross, and it could fucking kill you, apparently. It could fucking kill you if you eat too much of it. Which I don't understand how somebody could eat black licorice anyways, because it's so fucking nasty. How do you eat that?
It smells like it could kill you. It tastes like it could kill you.
I remember eating it once as a kid because my grandpa had them.
And it tastes like death.
It tastes like absolute death, and just like you should not be ingesting this.
And you had it after having red licorice.
Yes, and red licorice is 10 times better.
It really like me too. Like when I took my first bite of black licorice with the knowledge of red licorice, I was like, oh, this is a dead red licorice.
Yeah,
this tastes like
this is what death is.
Yes, I am breathing the black plague right now.
So when red licorice die, they just package it as black licorice, and we're actually eating dead red licorice bodies. It's suicide. We're eating their children.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like black licorice, like that shit is like potent.
Yeah, and see, the amount of black licorice the man consumed was as often as he consumed, threw his nutrition out of whack, and that's why it fucked him up.
Kind of makes me worry about all like the women in my family that I knew that loved black, like that was their snack. Like every day they had to have black licorice. Granted, they didn't eat nothing but it all day.
Right, and that's with him. Like they even said it in this. Oh yeah, here it is. For perspective, the U.S. Food Drug Administration warns 40 years or older eating 2 ounces of black licorice a day for at least 2 weeks could land you in the hospital with irregular heart rhythm and arrhythmia.
Right. No, it's not like I'm worried about them dying from it, but it's like that clearly affects your body, though.
Right, it does. But the thing is...
But that's the amount you need to eat in order for it to kill you.
Like, quick.
But I'm just saying,
in general.
It's still affecting them.
Right. I wonder how it is just affecting people in general.
So for those of you who really are a sucker for black licorice, like, really, take it easy.
Please, take it easy.
Just have, like, one a day.
Maybe. Or just not eat it at all, because it's nasty as fuck. That's my take on it. That shit's nasty as all hell. Every other color of licorice is great, but black licorice. I have had multiple different colors of licorice before, and black licorice is always on the bottom.
Can't explain it.
Cannot
it's
explain it.
If you gave me a rotten licorice.
Literally. Like, it's so nasty. I mean, shit, don't get me wrong. I was a kid back in the day, and I would bite the ends off of licorice and put it in my pop, and it was super unfucking healthy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
What kid didn't do that back in the day? It was like, oh, portable candy straw. Why the fuck not? And it was so easy. Like, literally, oh, I don't have a straw. Do you have licorice? Okay, cool. And granted, the licorice was really fucking soggy after you were done drinking your pop, but you still ate it.
It's like eating someone's cigar ashes.
Oh my God,
you know
literally.
what I'm saying?
Or like somebody like
ashes off a stogie.
Or that, or if like you drink somebody's like chew spit.
Oh yeah.
Which I have done before.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think I've ever told this story on the podcast, but we're gonna rat my uncle out here. So, my youngest uncle, he's about 40 now, but at the time he was about late 20s. He was staying at my grandma's house. He was still going to college and shit. Still to this day is a massive chewer. Like, not as bad as he used to be, but back in the day, my God, he would have just pop cans of fucking chew. Like, you could always tell it was a spit cans, and like there was I would always go downstairs to my grandma's computer because I always wanted to go on the internet. always just a line of fucking just chew pop cans right next to the fucking thing. I always had to like maneuver it around it, and unfortunately, we both liked the same pop back in the day. So I used to always drink diet Sunkist lemonade. I loved that shit. Still do to this day. I love that shit. But so did he. So this one unfortunate day, I go down there and I have my Sunkist. Just happened to put it right next to his. I'm not looking. I go and grab it. I go grab the wrong one, and as I go for a drink, I literally am just met with just, and like his spit chew is like right at the, like right where the entrance is. So like as I'm like, it just, just threw it all up, and I went into the next room because my uncle's in there. I'm like, throw away your goddamn chew cans. I just drank out of it. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yes, I just drank out of your nasty chew can. Like, fuck. Oh my god,
dude,
it was gross.
We've all had that chew uncle. Yeah.
I have two of them. Shit's nasty. Now, don't get me wrong. I did eventually do chew later in life. You remember, Gene? I was living with you, and I started it. And you and the roommate.
I knew it was just a phase.
Oh, right. Because immediately as I did it,
yeah, I think even you admitted to yourself. I think you were making a conscious decision that this was just strictly a phase.
Yeah, because I remember when I was first doing it, where we were living. I remember specifically you and the other roommate. You both were like, "Dude, you can't leave that shit around. That's nasty." Like it was. I don't even think it was a day.
because of that. Because I was thinking about my family. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not going through that shit.
I'm not doing it again.
You can't make me. No. But yeah, you know, I knew you had just got back from basic,
right?
You know, so
just getting acclimated back to like living
so
back.
It's just like you know, like this is my buddy now,
right?
You know, and
this is what I'm like.
This is who he is now. Still love him,
right? Now, granted, at least I wasn't that bad and completely changed. It was just like I just picked up some bad habits while being in the army. Really, I was a heavy fucking cigarette smoker. I was doing chew and still smoking pot, but.
That was another thing, is that you were still smoking cigarettes too. That really told me it was going to be a phase. I was like, okay. I was like, this is who you are right now, but I don't see you doing this for long.
No. And you know, like being out of the army and like while I was in, we constantly had to work out every day. So smoking a pack of cigarettes every day wasn't shit because I was always working out like every fucking day. You know, at least an hour in the morning because they always make us get up super fucking early to do PT, which. If you don't know what that means, physical fitness in the morning. And, you know, we get up literally before the butt crack of dawn. Like, we're up at, like, before the birds are even up. Going out to the cold-ass field. It's just cold as shit. And we got to do push-ups and sit-ups and shit in fucking, like, winter coats, gloves, sweatpants. And still have to run a fucking mile around in that shit.
Dude, the trees were still sleeping.
Dude, they were! And I will never forget this. I remember one time, because this is because there's basic training and then AT training. And if people don't know, AT training is when you're in the army and then after basic you go and do your job. You start learning what your job is going to be. Like you start learning it after you get out of basic. So I'm at AT training. This has to be like the first month I'm there, because I did not smoke heavy before I got there. Like. I did because it was accessible and everybody else fucking did it. So I was like, whatever. But this one instance really got me and I'm like, oh, cigarettes aren't that, like, it won't kill me that bad. There's this one sergeant one morning where, because usually it was like either we do like a bunch of sit-ups, push-ups, whatever the fuck, or we just do a 2-mile run and that's what we do in the morning. So that day, it was a 2-mile run and I see this sergeant next to me and we're about to start running. You know what he has in his mouth?
Chew?
A full lit cigarette. A full lit cigarette. Now, mind you, you're like, oh, well, he can't be running that fast. This motherfucker blew us out of the water, outpaced everybody, was done, and by the time I got done, had just got done finishing his cigarette and put it out.
Yeah, he was showing you how it was done.
And he ran with it in his mouth the whole time. He didn't take it out. He just had it in his mouth and... It was just breathing in cigarette smoke and running at the same time.
Yeah, he's a weathered vet.
Dude, apparently. And then I was just like, huh. So as long as I work out, I can fucking smoke as much cigarettes as I want. And then that's how I got my bad cigarette habit. I was like...
Really? That's all he was trying to teach you guys?
Apparently. Because I was so bad, I got to the point where I was almost a pack and a half a day in basic training. Or in AT training.
Meanwhile, he's fucking dying inside. He's like,
right.
Oh, shit, I
You
really
remember-
wish I could just spit this cigarette out, but I already lit it, and I must set an example for them.
They must know. Fuck cancer. You can beat it. You can outrun it. But you know what was crazy? I just thought of this. Like, when I was away, you remember I didn't get to talk to anybody, and you were the first person I called when I was actually able to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
It was the first time, and I think. Do you remember that conversation?
Dude, it felt like you were on another planet.
I was definitely on another fucking planet, man.
It felt like you were calling me from space. I would look up at the sky while
Are you
I was
there?
talking
Are you
to
up there?
Are you looking at the same moon I am?
Well, I remember that conversation because I think it was the first night I was actually like in where I was not necessarily where I was going to stay,
Yeah.
but I got to Fort Gordon, which is where I did my AT training. And I was there my first night.
I remember that.
And how long were we on the phone? We were on the phone for like
dude, we were always
2 hours, some shit like that.
Yeah, every time you called, we were at least on the phone. If not 4 hours, it was at least 2 hours.
And I remember because the first time I called the sergeant who was in charge of our barracks saw me in the hallway because I didn't want to wake everybody up that was sleeping in there, so I went in the hallway and she was patrolling the hallway and saw me and was like, Private, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm on the phone. She's like, Private, I know it's your first day here, but get off the phone and go to bed. And I'm pretty sure I had told you, I'm like, okay, I gotta go, bye. I didn't get in trouble, but it was just like, oh shit, I shouldn't do this. I'm glad she didn't fuck me up though, because she would have had. I loved her. What was her name? Sergeant Bowie. That was her name. One of the very first actual gay soldiers I actually saw in the Army. And I mean, at first I didn't. You wouldn't. I don't want to disrespect her, but she looked like a boy. Like when you saw her, she literally looked like a guy. But the only way you could
She
tell
might have
she
taken
wasn't.
that as a compliment.
I mean, she kind of did because she was the male in the relationship.
Right.
I saw her, I think it was her wife or her girlfriend or whatever. She was definitely the man in the relationship. Definitely, without question. But she was awesome. I loved her. There was one time, because we always got care packages. Our families could send us care packages and send us shit. But we couldn't necessarily get food. Like, that was one of the big things. Like, we couldn't be sent food. My family knew I loved beef jerky, so they sent me a care package just full of candy, beef jerky, all this shit. And every time we got our mail, it's in front of everybody. So the sergeant has to be like, Private Clement, you have mail, whoever you got mail. And we had to open it in front of them so they could see whether it was that or not. And she saw that, and she knew I wasn't a bad soldier, so she knew the disappointment in my face when I opened it up, and I was like, oh. I was like, I knew instantly this was going to get fucking taken away. But what she did was like, Private Clement, I'm not going to take this away from you. What you can do is, I'm going to keep it in the office, and whenever you want to eat it, you just go in there and you eat it in there. I'm like,
cool.
I'm like, oh, okay, sweet, awesome. That was fucking awesome. Never got any better treatment than that in the fucking Army. Like, that was so fucking cool. I was like, you do not have to do that.
All right, she's over here picking favorites.
Seriously, I was like, I mean, I think she liked me because the people I was like because the people I was with were all kind of shitheads anyways. Like, they would always get in fucking trouble, and I was like one of the few that never did. So she was just like, oh, well, he doesn't cause any trouble. I'll let him slide. You know what I mean? It's the thing in the Army. Always stay under the radar. You never want a sergeant to know you by name unless they know you're a good soldier. You never want a sergeant to know you on a last name basis where they yelling your name out. Like, I'm fucked.
But they can't begin their day without saying your name.
No, but that's also where I learned that the Army's not all, like, a lot of the shit that the Army likes to tell you is not necessarily true. Like, one of the big things I took leaving the Army, or like being in it, you would have never thought this, but there's this one guy I walked by going to the defect. This is where we go get food. And I don't know how the conversation struck up, but he looked like he had been an addict before, and I don't know how the conversation got started, but I just went up and started talking to him, and I eventually found out this dude had been through rehab twice for heroin addiction while being in the Army. They're allowing him to stay in so he could get clean, but a dude who smoked pot that I was with in my company got kicked out the first sign of smoking pot. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, what the fuck? That makes no sense at all.
No, it doesn't.
Now, I think it also contributed that the kid was also kind of a little shithead and would always keep alcohol in his fucking room too, so that probably didn't help much. But the fact that a dude was getting kicked out for having pot while there's a dude who was literally addicted to heroin while in the army and admitted that he got addicted to heroin while being in the army,
right.
But he's allowed to stay. Like, what? That made no fucking sense. That makes no goddamn sense.
No, that's fucking backwards.
No, it's ass backwards. It's ass backwards. And like, even K2 was rolling around fucking in the army and shit. I remember there was a dude literally smoking that shit because he's like, oh, they can't test this because it's not real weed. And I'm like, yeah, but it fucks up your brain. I have stories about that, which I'm just gonna, while we're on the subject, why the fuck not? Now, disclaimer. You should never, ever, ever, ever fucking do K2. Let me just say that right now.
You're literally not supposed to.
Yeah, you're literally not supposed to. I only did it for a month. For a month. But my God, the things that happened in that month, I will never go back and do it. First story. So, me and my buddies, we're all, smoking K2, whatever. Yeah. So we're smoking K2. It was like one of the very few, I think one of the first times that I started. And I had it in my brain that I wanted to go get the new A Day to Remember album that day. I have no idea why. Couldn't tell you why I wanted to. But there was a record store literally like a couple blocks away from where we live. So, me being high as fuck off of K2, I go into the record store. And from what my buddy tells me, because he had to go in there and get me, I was in there for 20 minutes looking for this album, and I walked past it like 5 times. Like, he came in there and he's like, dude, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm really trying to find this album. And he's like, which one? I'm like, it's A Day to Remember. And he found it right away. And he's like, dude, it's right here. He said I was in there for 20, 30 minutes, just wandering around looking for this album, and I walked past it like 5 fucking times. And I looked so stupid. I remember getting it, going to the front counter, and the person who was working that day is just looking at me like, the fuck is wrong with this kid? Like, what is he on? Well, I was on K2, if you wanted to fucking know. Oh, so there's that one. And mind you, this is all in a month. All this shit happened in a month. So here's the next one. My buddy that I'm still friends with to this day, he was very good at most stoners before they even really smoked pot. A lot of them are very inventive. My buddy, before he ever smoked pot, liked to make gravity bongs out of 2-liter pop bottles. All the time. All the fucking time. So that's what we would smoke K2 out of.
Yeah, it's an old trick.
A lot. And again, it's probably the worst way you could fucking smoke K2. Because if anybody knows how to hit out a home shift gravity bong, you have to have a hole at the bottom with, water in it. And as you smoke your stuff, the smoke pushes out the water. Now, what they didn't tell you, and what they forget to fucking tell you, is that you better fucking hit that shit quick, because that smoke will get really stale really goddamn quick if you don't hit it, like, right away. So, a lot of the times when we do K2 hits, and mind you, we wouldn't just, like, pass it around. We would fill it all the way up, and that was one person's hit. They'd take the whole thing. So we didn't pass it around and it was like, oh, yeah, here you go. No, it's hot. It just keep going.
Yeah, no, that's a small enough bowl to be a self bowl.
Oh, dude, it was. Bowl. Yes. So we do that, and my buddy goes and gets Taco Bell. Now, this is the most fucked up I had ever been on K2, because I don't remember a fucking thing about this. I only know from what my buddies told me. So I'm fucking delusional. At one point, I'm in my buddy's kitchen with a fucking rag, and I'm like having it on my face. I'm acting really fucking weird. They're video recording me too, so they can show me like, dude, you're acting fucking weird. And like, I wouldn't give him this towel. I wouldn't give him this cloth. Like, they would try to take it away from me, and I'm like, no, like, I would not let them get it. So then my buddy comes back and gets Taco Bell. I proceed to try to eat it, and all I remember doing is I'm about to eat this burrito, and then it goes black. from what my buddies tell me, I'm about to eat the burrito. I happen to fall right where the fucking table is in the kitchen and almost break the table because I fell right into it. And then I proceed to, after that, the burrito in my hands, I'm on the ground, like, smearing it into his carpet. For whatever reason, flinging taco shit everywhere. They're trying to take the burrito away from me, and I'm like huddling it next to my body, like, no, this is my burrito, no! And like for at least a good 30 minutes, I'm doing this. The kicker is, my buddy's parents were coming home that day, and they were coming home within like 40 minutes after I stopped. So, what they decided to do was put my stupid ass on the fucking couch, let me sleep it off, because I had finally like gotten the K2 like adrenaline gone, and I was finally like calming down. And they proceeded to clean up the whole house before his parents got home, so they never do. But they showed me the video afterwards, and I'm like, oh my god. Now when I say I'm smearing this shit into his carpet, I'm literally took a bite of the burrito, you know, it's all hot and oozy still, right into the carpet, like not giving a single fuck for whatever reason. Don't know why.
That's the thing about K2 and just potpourri in general, because I couldn't tell you any real stories from my experience because of the blacking out.
It only happened every once.
And that's
for
the
me.
thing is that that's the thing that like I wouldn't black out. I only blacked out twice, I think, and that was with K2. I blacked out twice while, and I've smoked K2 more than twice, but
right.
2 times out of smoking K2, I blacked out while I was high off of it.
Mm-hmm. And it happens so quick.
But other than that, though, I noticed that I then, after that experience is over with, I then ended up blacking out that whole experience. So that's why I couldn't even really tell you anything I've done. I can just tell you these 2 things I remember for sure, and one of which wasn't exactly K2 as so much. It was just potpourri. It was another thing in Texas called Hammerhead. But K2, I just remember rolling on the bed laughing about something incredibly stupid. I couldn't tell you what it was,
funny at all.
But I remember as I was doing it thinking how I'm laughing at something that's so incredibly stupid.
Right.
And if anything, that just made me laugh even more.
Right, how stupid it was, and you're laughing at it.
Because I'm so fucking high and I'm laughing at something stupid. But and how funny is that?
Right.
But so that's as far as I can remember with K2. And Hammerhead, though, I remember because it fucking traumatized me that I wasn't gonna do this shit ever again. And then I moved out here, and then
it's everywhere
I
here.
heard about K2, and I was just like, oh, I'm not doing that. And then just one day I was just like, you know what, fuck it, as long as it ain't Hammerhead, because I had smoked other things from this store that I got Hammerhead from.
Right.
And they hit me like potpourri does, hard as fuck, but nothing like Hammerhead, though. Hammerhead, again, had me doing the blackout shit, where like it's like you're literally thinking 100 miles per minute, so that like the moment you're doing something, you forget why you're doing it, what you're doing. You don't even know. You're just like, what did I come in here for?
Right.
Oh, why did I take this step forward? So I remember recognizing that, and I'm standing in the kitchen. I'm like, wait, what did I come in here for? Wait, why am I? And then I closed my eyes for a second to try to remember, and then I open my eyes, and I'm looking down at my hands, and it looks like I'm on top of a skyscraper, and my hands are all the way
down.
Ooh.
Ooh. It's that I remember talking to you about.
I have tried a number of drugs.
In your time.
Not hardcore drugs. The most hardcore,
psychoactive, though.
Yeah, the most hardcore you could say is maybe coke, but I only tried that for like a night.
And that's a party drug. You know what I mean? Like you do it one night,
it's
you're
not going to give
hooked.
you anything like that. It's not like acid or what people make acid to be, where you would expect me to have said that I was tripping on acid and had that experience, but no.
Right.
So I have never, and granted, I didn't even do those drugs by that time, but still, like, from now I can tell you for sure, I have never experienced anything like that.
No.
That shit was I was literally as high as the top of a fucking, I was hundreds and thousands of feet up.
Yeah.
And my hands were all the way down, and I couldn't even see my feet. I was so high up.
Dude, like I actually can describe what it's like being on K2, because I remember there's multiple times I remember not blacking out, but still remembering how fucking trippy it was. So I remember one of my friend's buddies had a fucking van, which was fucking weird. It was like a soccer van, but he, you know, we'd always smoke in there. And I remember doing it one time, and I was tripping so hard. It was like, you know, like a swirling vortex and how it keeps like going in and out. That's what I was seeing, and it was just doing that the whole goddamn time. And I'm like, holy fuck. It's like being drunk without drinking. A more intense version of it.
Yeah, like being really fucking shit-faced, hammered drunk. Like,
but
yeah, I agree with that, because that's literally all I could tell you from just, I could just, thinking back, all I see is myself just getting up and walking and not remember why I got up.
Mm-hmm. And, dude, I think the worst part of it was when the high was coming down, the fucking migraine headaches I got. Oh my god.
I would get headaches during sometimes.
Dude, right? And then you'd be super sensitive to light and shit. I remember that. Like, I couldn't even go. I remember when I was doing it, I would still work at my local church and do fish fries, you know, and sell popcorn and shit. So this one day I'm supposed to go up there, and I had just gotten done smoking, and I was not in the right. I just couldn't. Like, I couldn't even step outside and look at the sun. It was so bad. And, you know, I couldn't tell my mom what I had been doing because, you know, I'd get in fucking trouble. So I had to bear it out and go to the fucking fish fry with hundreds of drunk-ass people asking for fucking popcorn. And I'm sitting here with my hands in my head like, just like dying because it was so bad. Those headaches were so bad.
Yes.
The way my buddies got it, and it was this place called Far East Treasures. That was the name of the store. And, you know, it's the typical, like, you go to any mall, it's like, oh, look, there's Chinese and Japanese shit everywhere, you know, oh, look at that, cool little statues, they may have little, like, grinders and pipes now and shit like that, but it was one of those stores. And my buddy, like, it was so weird because they wouldn't trust many people. They would only trust certain people that they knew would, like, okay, I know you smoke this, so you're not going to rat me out. Like, my buddy had to be the one to go get it. If anybody else had tried to go get it, they would just say no. But since they knew him and knew he wouldn't rat, they always sold to him. And mind you, this is a store in a mall that he's getting these drugs at. Like, under-the-counter drugs at a mall. There's literally people walking around everywhere. There's people in the store, mind you. And they're just selling over-the-counter drug. Like, you know, under-the-counter drugs.
See, I got it from what's no longer a thing anymore, but I got it from Studio 13 in downtown. And yeah, dude, it was always the weirdest shit going in there. It's always so weird to go in and buy that shit. It's just like, odd. What is this? And why? It really feels like a fucking experiment.
Right. Have we ever told the story of like what happened when I was taking acid that one time and I was just in my own zone? Like
Yeah, we talked about that when Kelly was here.
Yeah, okay, we did. Yeah. Man. I forgot. Like I always forget what we fucking talk about, but that she still loves me, but goddamn, she looks at me differently now. Because I had never told her those stories before. Or I think I may have, and she wasn't, like, really paying attention. Because when I first met her...
I just think you probably didn't get as
detailed.
Detailed, yeah.
Well, because to be fair, when I first met her, I didn't tell her what kind of drugs I had done. The only thing I told her I did was pot, really. I'm pretty sure it came up. I think she was curious and she had asked me, like, what kind of drugs have you done? And I was like, acid. And she was like, what? You know? And I was like, yeah, I've done that. You know, shrooms, ecstasy, you know, whatever. You know, I went down a list and she's like, what? I'm like, yeah, you know, I kind of make acid like a yearly thing, maybe once every 2 years, you know. Don't do it that often. It's like, you know what? If it comes up, I'm gonna do acid now. Like I do it maybe once a year. This is the time to do it, kind of thing. It's sporadic, and I keep it that way because of the stories I've had. Like I would say how many times. Well, I'm not gonna say how many times I've done it, but I'd say 60% of the time I've done it was good. Now the other 40% was bad trips. Those are not fun. Promise you, they're not fun. At all. And that's why you always got to be smart and know your fucking limit. It's like drinking a beer. Like, you know your limit of, like, when you do acid, you know? Like, my limit at that time was 3 tabs. Could not go over 3 tabs. If I did 3 tabs, bad time. You know, I'm Jackie Chan. Like, you remember the Jackie Chan Adventures show back in the day? It was the animated show.
Of course I do.
Of course.
I love that show.
Well, my mind was like that when he's like getting chased by a boulder and you hear, bad day, bad day, bad day, bad day, bad day. Yeah. That was my mind when I'm fucking tripping really bad on acid. I'm like, bad day, bad day, bad day, bad day, bad day.
I think anyone else that grew up with that show has had that moment, though, because I know I have.
And how good of a show was that?
That it had any right to be.
It was a hidden gem, you know what I mean? It was on KW15 in the morning, you know what I mean? Or WB15 in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like one of those random shows, kind of like a Shaolin Showdown, if you ever watched that one. Like, that one was pretty cool, too. But it was like in the realm of that. It was like, it really dove into like, it really went deep into Chinese lore. You know what I mean? Like, I learned more Chinese lore from that show than I ever did reading a textbook.
Yeah, it was just a good fucking show.
It was a great fucking show. Fighting's out.
There's just no ifs, ands, or about it. Like, that's one of the shows that I remember being a kid, and even the adults in the room were like, "Oh, shut the fuck up, Jackie
This is cool
Chan
shit." Yeah.
You know?
Right? And like just the like at first like the talismans and shit they had, and each one was like a different. You know, it was the Chinese calendar for all the talismans at first. Yeah. So it was like all the animals on the Chinese calendar, and that's how you learned about the Chinese calendar. I was like, what?
That's the thing. It's such a. It was more well thought out than you would expect from a Jackie Chan,
especially back
show.
then. It was really thought out.
Against Jackie Chan, but you would expect like, oh, then they're just gonna focus it a lot on how Jackie's a stuntman, you know?
Right.
That's how I went into it. I'm like, oh, so you're just gonna make Jackie animated? All right, cool.
His uncle was. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just love that they made him. It was legit a cartoon,
right? It was a genuine cartoon, but still was like, yes, it was a cartoon, but the shit in it, you were like, oh my god, this is awesome! I want to keep watching this. I still love his uncle. His uncle was the best, one of the best characters in that show. Hiya, Jackie!
Yeah.
Every fucking time.
All the
and always had like a blowfish or something, and always was the one to just at the end of the show, you Magwegwa fighting's out, you Magwegwa fighting's out, and then you would just end it. Like whatever ghost spirits there, whoop, Grandpa got it, or Uncle got it with his fucking blowfish. And then they had Toro, was the big sumo wrestler dude who was like evil at first, and then got on their side, and you're like, oh, he's actually a really nice guy. He just worked for a bunch of dicks.
And I remember that show would always drop bombs. Man.
Yes.
That's why, like,
all the time.
Like, it would feel like sometimes, like, I would get out of an episode and be like, man, I really learned some shit.
Right. Like, you would, like, even your parents, when they saw that show, it wasn't a show of like, oh, you should be watching that. Even they were like, yeah, watch that. That's a good show to watch.
Yeah.
You know, it had the right amount of magic, but also had common sense in it at the same time. Like you said, it would drop, bombs. Would always hit you with just some like,
it wasn't
no
pandering.
Shit. Like you should do that, or like, well, no, duh, that's dumb, or it would just be obvious with it, And even with, there would always be like a little lesson with like his niece or whatever that I don't remember. Did she just get sent there because she was like a troubled kid or something?
Yeah, it was something along those lines.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, and then she just happened to be like one of the better people to go with him on these fucking adventures. At 9 years old, she's an acrobat and shit and is more athletic than he is half the fucking time. I'm like, is she really 9 years old, or is she like a 30-year-old but a midget? You know what I mean? Like, I just love that show.
It's funny that you bring that show up because I did think about it earlier this week randomly. It was just one of those, like, it almost feels like an annual time where I'm just like, man, I could really go for some Jackie Chan
Seriously.
adventures, but I'm still going to wait on it because I want to really, because it's been so long since I've seen it. I just want to see how long I can wait. But I think when it hit me this week, I was like, I think this is going to be the year where I watch some Jackie Chan adventures.
Because that was like what, early
it's in that
2000s?
Yeah,
when that
it's
came
a
out?
show. It's a show of that stature.
And it was so good. Like, even when the show got really weird, I still watched it. It went for 5 seasons.
It did get weird, but I still was there.
95
every
episodes. Had 95 episodes.
That sounds about right. That show felt like an era.
Long.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? the episodes are only 30 minutes long. Or like 22 minutes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they felt so much longer when you were watching it, you know what I mean? Because there was so much stuff happening in the show, you're like, this can't only be 20 minutes. And then like you look at the time, it's like, oh, that was really only 30 minutes with commercials? What the hell? Like, I mean, granted, as a kid, you're not thinking that, but like thinking about it now, you're like, it was really only 30 minutes with commercial time. So it really only like 22, 21 minutes at most. Because fuck, commercials take up like 9 minutes of any show. That's why anything is longer than what it actually is, which is crazy, which I never thought about that.
So now it's time for Yesterday's of Today is October 4th, 2020. And the most eventful things that have happened on October 4th throughout history are 1535. The first complete English translation of the Bible was printed in Zurich, Switzerland.
Also known for the shit capital of the world.
But I love how it's the first complete English translation. Because that should tell you what's wrong with the Bible. That's just the
Damn
first.
Swedes!
That's just the first of many translations of the Bible.
That happened. Like, that thing was translated in so many different forms before that. That was just the first one of, like, I don't know if it was, like, English or whatever, but the Bible has been translated in so many different fucking ways over the goddamn years. You know what I mean? Like,
you're just getting footnotes.
Literally, like, the Bible now is nothing the Bible of 20 years ago, promise you. Not anywhere close.
Yeah, who knows what all, like, the message, whatever the message was, it still somewhat gets that across, sure, but you're not going to get what the actual pure exact message of the Bible was. No. Sorry.
No. There's a lot of debauchery in the old Bible.
Right.
Right. And incest.
Yes.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there. Even stuff that Jesus himself has said, supposedly.
Like Mary Magdalene was a whore.
Yeah, Jesus said some
and was
wild
supposedly
shit.
May have been his girlfriend.
Right. That's true. Supposedly.
Supposedly. Don't know if that's completely true, but...
Because we weren't there.
Nope. But you know what? If Jesus got his fucking rocks off, would anybody really be that mad? You know what I mean? Like...
I could think of a few Christians that would be pretty
I'd just
mad.
be like, he was human. Like, I mean, yes, he's the son of God, but as we've seen in many shows, anytime you see Jesus come down to earth, he gets acclimated to the earth, so he becomes what he's around. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm sure that possibly would happen if, like, he just popped up down here. He'd probably be a California surfer boy, if anything else. You know what I mean? Like, well, anyways.
1648, the first volunteer fire department was established in New York.
Really? That was where the first fire department was started? I mean, that would make sense.
New York.
The actual New York or like
Peter Stuyvesant?
Oh yeah, he's fucking Italian as shit.
Yeah, that's something. Like, really, in 1648, it took that long for someone to be like, I'm gonna take this matter in my own hands.
Well, I remember reading something that back in the day they used to have, they wouldn't use water. They would use like a weird chemical with this bottle, and whatever it was, it would like you throw it on the fire and it was supposed to extinguish it. So they didn't even have like, you know, like what we have apparently, you know, obviously today. They had like these weird other systems of putting out fire that were very ineffective half of the time.
1881, Edward Laveau received a patent for the player piano. 1890.
Patent the piano?
The player piano.
Oh.
Yes. 1893, the first professional football contract was signed by Grant Dilbert for the Pittsburgh AC.
Yeah, sounds about right. I mean,
what's the AC?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I could not tell you. My knowledge of sports is deep, but not that deep.
Fair enough. 1895, the first U.S. Open golf tournament took place in Newport, Rhode Island. Horace Rawlins, 19 years old, won the tournament.
This is golf?
The first U.S. Open golf tournament.
Holy fuck. Man, golf is just as old as almost every other sport, and it's boring as fuck to watch. That is like the one sport that actually has benefited from COVID. Because like if you go and watch an actual golf event, it's pretty much the same as it would be at any other golf tournament. It's just there's no people there.
Yeah.
Like they're just, I'm playing on a golf course. It's like the most natural fucking sport. It's like, COVID, we're fine. Most people watch at home anyways. We don't give a shit. That and horse racing. Except that was fucking weird. To see a horse race with nobody in the crowd was odd. Because you still expect an actual crowd at a horse race, you know what I mean? Like
yeah, sure.
Kentucky Derby, whatever.
Yeah.
Nope. Not a motherfucking person in the crowd. So weird.
They were like, you are not getting anywhere near these horses.
We ain't letting you fucking infect these horses, goddammit. They're prize horses.
1909, the first airship race in the U.S. took place in St. Louis, Missouri. 1927, the first actual work of carving began on Mount Rushmore.
Which is also a very nuts process in itself. I mean, and the fact that there's a hidden, like, I don't know if anybody knew this, but there's an actual hidden chamber behind Lincoln's head. No shitting either. Like,
and inside contains
documents.
Walt Disney.
Right, the head of Walt Disney. Along with the Declaration of Independence right next to his his frozen head. Framed in everything.
And also a copy of E.T. the video game.
Oh my god.
1931. The comic strip Dick Tracy made its debut in the Detroit Daily Mirror. The strip was created by Chester Gould.
Wow. Jesus Christ. Didn't that go on for many, many years after that, too? Like, doesn't it still go?
I don't know. I wouldn't know. I just, I found out about Dick Tracy through the movie.
True. Yes. Same here.
1933. Esquire magazine was published for the first time.
Wow. That abomination has been around that long? How much shit has they spewed over the years? How much random dumb shit have they spewed over the years? My God. And still going strong.
Still going strong.
You still see it in every fucking store. There's always Inquirer right there. With the most absurd fucking titles you could ever read. It is like the most... if you want to get a good laugh, read an Inquirer magazine while you're like getting your like food, out so you can fucking pay for it. You will have the biggest laughs ever just reading just the front cover. It's hilarious.
Esquire, you're despicable. 1940. Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini met in the Alps at Brenner Pass.
Mussolini was the leader of the Ottoman Empire, right?
I believe you're right. Hitler was seeking help from Italy to fight the British. 1943. Is You Is or Is You Ain't My Baby by Louis Jordan and his Timpani 5 was released. 1957, Leave It to Beaver debuted on CBS.
Damn.
Also in 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1 into orbit around the Earth. Sputnik was the first man-made satellite to enter space. Sputnik 1 fell out of orbit on January 4th, 1958.
And so began the space race, or so they claim. But you know what's really funny? When you go back and look at the history of that whole, Russia, they got a bunch of nuclear warheads compared to... If you really go back and look at it, they did not have much of anything. We had 3-4 times the amount of nuclear warheads they did. But we always projected it as, they have a bunch of nuclear warheads, they have a huge amount. They didn't have that much. You go back and look at the history, they did not have that many warheads. As much as they like to claim they did not. It was all, it was just propaganda shit. That's all it really was. Like, we were trying to make ourselves look so much better than
they
them.
were just puffing out their chests.
Literally, yeah. And, saying, they're the enemy. And it's like, well, we kind of could fuck them and, the whole world over, 4 times over. So what are you talking about?
1958, British Overseas Airways Corporation became the first jetliner to offer transatlantic service to passengers with flights between London, England, and New York.
Wow. Damn. I had always thought about that of when did flying on planes internationally, when did that ever start? Because I don't think I ever knew.
Me too. I thought about that as a kid. Yeah.
Right. When did that actually start? That's so odd. Even back then to oh, I could fly to that other country and it only takes me like, what, 10, 11 hours? Fuck yeah, let's go. Or however long it fucking takes. I've never flown out of the country before. Would like to, eventually.
1959, the first World Series to be played west of St. Louis began in Los Angeles.
Boop, boop. Because for a long time, and this is also kind of why I love the Cardinals, like, they were one of the original first teams in the MLB. There was only like 8 teams. I think there was two St. Louis teams. There was the St. Louis Browns, and then the Cardinal. I don't know if they were the Cardinals. I think they were called something else. And then eventually those 2 teams just became together and became the Cardinals. So it was just 2 St. Louis teams that just came together and just formed one team. Because they were like, we can't compete against these other teams that, you know, all across the country that have better players than us. Why don't we just combine both of our teams and just play that way? So we're just all one team. And that's how the Cardinals started. And that was where the mecca of baseball was, besides New York and stuff like that, because obviously with Babe Ruth and all that shit, St. Louis really was like the mecca for like baseball, like even back then. Because like you said, like the World Series was usually played in St. Louis until that time, and then they were like, well, we played in other stadiums besides St. Louis. Getting kind of dull here.
1970, Janis Joplin was found dead of a heroin overdose at the age of 27.
And there lies the whole 27 Club.
She had just finished recording her second solo album, Pearl. 1987, NFL owners used replacement personnel to play games despite the players' strike.
And that's where the fucking movie Replacements comes from. It's all about that. With Shane Falco. I think it's Keanu Reeves. Yeah, it's all about that.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I know of it, though. 1990, the German parliament had its first meeting since reunification. 1992... Yay! 1992, the 16-year civil war in Mozambique ended.
What the fuck is that? I mean, I'm not trying to be like geographically illiterate, but where the fuck is that?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. I just thought to share it, seeing that they had 16 years of a civil war. Like, that's something to note. Like, that's,
yeah, I just wish I knew where the fuck it was at.
Yeah, I mean, look at that real quick.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a bad idea. At least give us a nice little geographical, lesson, because I don't know where the fuck that's at. I feel like it'd be in the Middle East somewhere, though.
It is a country in East Africa.
Oh, okay, so close enough. Close enough. Not necessarily in the Middle East, but okay.
1994, South African President Nelson Mandela was welcomed to the White House by U.S. President Clinton.
You remember that whole thing of like when he was in prison early, like people said he was dead, and he's like, "No, I'm not dead. What
still
are you
sitting
talking
here
about?"
in prison.
Yeah, like what the fuck are you talking about? I'm not dead. That was such a weird thing. And like they tried to like actually make like, no, he's dead. No, he's dead. And it's like, no, he's not. He literally just came out. No, he's not dead. He's waving from the prison cell like, hey, I'm still here.
And then once he was free, Clinton was like, come over here, buddy.
I know you'll have fun over here.
I knew you'd be back. Yeah, when they
After
told me
prison.
you were in prison, I was like, I knew you'd be back.
Oh my God. Give him like 5 years.
1998, the Vincent van Gogh exhibit opened in Washington, D.C. The exhibit featured 70 paintings. Also in 1998, Davis Gaines performed as the Phantom in the show Phantom of the Opera for the 2000th time.
Jesus fucking Lord. That would... My God. Was this... Wait, that was a play?
Yeah, on Broadway.
Okay.
On Broadway.
Okay. You know what's funny? Kelly tells me all the time, she's like, oh my God, I love Phantom of the Opera. And I'm like, I've never watched it. Not once have I ever watched it, ever. And I'm just like, maybe it's just, I don't know. I'm not super into that shit. So I'm just like, I don't care enough. And definitely seeing the fucking Cats thing really kind of threw me off.
But yeah, they made the movie because the Broadway show was so big.
Of course, they had to make money off of it. Why not?
Like you do.
Although that was a much bigger success than Cats was.
I was gonna say, like you do with Cats, right? 20 fucking years after the fact, after the show was a hit, then you make a fucking scary, scarring
animated
ass fucking movie
with hands. They had hands.
and no buttholes.
Oh my god, it was so weird. You would expect to see a cat butthole. They didn't have one.
2001, Barry Bonds, San Francisco Giants, hit his 70th home run of the season to tie Mark McGwire's major league record. Bonds also moved past Reggie Jackson on the all-time list with his 564th career home run.
At the time. And now Barry Bonds sits at the top. But, again, there's that whole controversy thing of he definitely took steroids. And yes, I understand that baseball players grow up and, look different after they get in because they're young. But you see Barry Bonds when he was in college, and then you see Barry Bonds when he was, retiring, and it was like, did you eat two of you? What the fuck happened? How the hell did you get that big? There's no way. You go see him, and he played in college because he actually came here to the College World Series in Omaha. I can't remember. I think he was on Arizona State, I believe. I could be completely wrong about what team he played for, but he did come to the College World Series. He was a skinny fucking twig. He looked nothing like, and obviously, yeah, because he was young and shit. But it was like, dude, again, you ate two of yourself in 20 years. What the fuck happened? How the fuck did you get that big? And same with Mark McGwire, too. You could see him when he was with the Oakland Athletics when he came into the league.
See, I just took it as he was eating more. He was eating better.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yeah, no, in retrospect, yeah, he totally was doing steroids.
Oh, they were doing steroids. But now it's the thing of, it was an entertainment thing. So, people are just kind of whatever. They were doing it for the sake of entertainment for the people to watch. You know what I mean? So, is it really that bad? No. Should people do it still? Probably not.
And finally, in 2004, Spaceship One, are one of our faves,
right?
Reached an altitude of 368,000 feet. It was the first privately built manned rocket ship to fly in space twice within a 2-week window. The ship won the Ansari X Prize of $10 million for their success.
Jesus.
That'll about do it for this entry. Now, if you want to reach us, you can go ahead and send an email to won'trememberthingpodcast@gmail.com. That is won'trememberthingpodcast@gmail.com. Don't you dare put an apostrophe on won't. We love you, and we'd say thanks for listening, but you probably won't
remember a thing.